Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on this Friday afternoon. We will get started in just a minute or two. We'll let our attendees join and settle in. Today's webinar will be featuring Peninsula, Canada. Just a couple of pointers on the side. You may ask questions during the webinar. Please post them in the Q&A or the chat section. We will be monitoring those questions and addressing them either throughout the webinar or at the end in the Q&A portion. As well, if you have any general questions, comments, or feedback for the chamber, please send them to our info@windsoresexchamber.org email address, and I've posted that into the chat section for you to grab. I'll make sure that it gets into the right department and authority. As well, we update our website and our social media platforms daily, so go ahead and log on and see what we've got going on to keep updated, and I'll post our handles in the chat section as well. So they're right there in the side. And we'll give it another minute to let the rest of the attendees join before we get started. If you have attended our past webinars and have would like to see them again, share them, or if you wanted to attend but weren't able to, they are up right now and available for viewing, and they're on our website. I will post the link into the chat section as well for you to grab. Okay, I think we can start in a couple of seconds. Okay, I think at this time I will hand it over to our Chamber President and CEO, Rakesh Naidu, who will introduce our guest speakers.
Thanks, Marina, and welcome back, everyone. For those who have been with us as we do this webinar series pretty much every day at 2:30. And for those that are attending for the first time, welcome. The objective of this webinar is to provide you the latest and the greatest information that we have on various topics that affect you as an individual, but also as an employee or as an entrepreneur and as an employer. So we've covered some relevant topics in the past. We've brought in elected officials, we've brought in experts, and our intention, as I mentioned, is to really give you the help that you need at this time. Since there's a lot of information that's coming in from different sources, we want to make sure that not only you have that information, but you also have the opportunity to ask questions on things that may not be very clear, because as we know that the government, be it the federal, the provincial, or the local government, they're announcing several measures, and these measures are important. These measures are not just good for us to comply with from health perspective, but also these measures are important for us to take care of the business, take care of the people that work with us, and to be able to survive through this very challenging time and be able to recover fast from it. So as you know that in the last few days, there's been quite a bit of information that's coming from the federal government on the wage subsidy program, the CURB, which is the Canadian Emergency Relief Benefit Program. The government has also announced programs to support businesses so they can access funds. And there is various criteria that has been put in place, as to who will qualify and who will not. Understandably, there's a lot of information and sometimes not enough, and there is some gaps in terms of eligibility criteria, or how do you verify information, and who will verify, and when do you provide that information, and so on. Especially when it comes to the 30% drop in revenues, we've seen quite a bit of confusion around that. The government has clarified some, but there still exists quite a bit of clarification, as well as some challenges that companies have that don't necessarily operate in a traditional way, where there is a year-on-year comparison that they can do, because either the business is seasonal, or sometimes they have contracts that may not necessarily line up in an equitable way every month. So, so we understand those things. We have taken it up with various networks and conferences and meetings that we are, where we represent your issues and concerns to the federal government and the provincial government. So, we understand that things are not that easily accessible at this point of time. But stay with us, keep working with us, provide your inputs and information, so that we can take it to the right and the appropriate authority and get you the answers. You can also provide us input on, if you have a topic that you would like to hear more about, so that we can identify experts and we can bring those experts to provide you that information, just like what we're doing today. So, you can connect with us at info@windsor-essex-chamber.org, provide that information. And as Mena mentioned, there is also information on the previous webinars that we've done. There is video recording of that, so you can access that. And those videos are going to be of help to you as you try to find out more information on what's been announced. And some of the programs that were recently announced, there's some details on that. So in terms of where we are locally, you must have heard that we've got a total of 141 cases confirmed, confirmed cases. Unfortunately, we've lost 3 people to COVID-19. So situation continues to be grim, and it requires our full support and compliance to the health officials' directive and their advice, which is to ensure that we maintain social distancing, we limit our travel or interaction with others to minimal. Of course, maintain social distancing and do as much as virtual interaction as possible. We just, a few minutes back, Ontario released a report where if the measures that we have currently were not to be implemented, we would have lost about 100,000 lives. And this would come as a shock to many, but our government officials, healthcare officials have been constantly talking about that this is serious and we need to take it seriously. We need to do everything in our means to support the government efforts. With the measures that are in place, unfortunately, even then we will lose between 3 to 5,000, 3 to 15,000. Terrible, right? No one should lose any of their near and dear ones. And we just hope that people get it now and take it seriously and ensure that we stay indoors as much as possible, maintain social distancing, and do our best to support our healthcare workers who work tirelessly around the clock to help us and take care of people that are being afflicted with this. So please do your part. And if you have a product or a service that is useful at this time, if you've got anything that you can offer that is needed by healthcare workers or essential service providers, bring it to our attention so that we can connect you with the right people, be it at the federal or the provincial government. You can also mention about that at ontario.ca/Ontario Together. You can also access, at Candada.ca. There's a link on resources that is available, or companies that can provide resources. So please, if you know someone that can offer help, the company that has a product or services that can be useful, please either get get back to us, let us know, provide us information, or go on these the federal government's websites or the British government's website. And stay safe. More importantly, take care of the business, take care of employees, but stay safe. And as you take care of your business, which is there's quite a bit of upheaval. There are so many questions that must have come up, especially when it comes to dealing with employees. How do you take care of your business? And so on. So with the changing landscape, new things are coming up, and information will not be adequate. So we realize you need access to some experts where you can listen to them, find out how best to handle the situation, but also ask questions. And hence today's webinar, which is focused on human resources. We're very delighted that we have two experts with us from Peninsula, which is an international company headquartered in the UK with the Canadian operations and headquarters in Toronto and in Vancouver. And it's a fantastic company. They've got great resource, great people, experts in their domain, and they've come on board to offer some really pertinent advice to us, and they'll be happy to take questions from us. So if you're wondering about how do you take care of your business, how do you keep it open and running at this time, how do you take care of your employees, how do you handle temporary layoffs, how do you take care of health and safety at this time, and questions related with human resources, and questions where there is no easy answers in the changing circumstances. This is your time to listen to the experts and ask those questions. So I'm very happy to introduce to you. We've got an expert here from Peninsula, Priscilla and Priscilla Mena and Shelley Seguin, both will be with us. Priscilla will be the one that will be doing the initial presentation, and she's a Bachelor of Commerce with a major in Human Resources Management from the Guelph University. And she joined Peninsula in 2018 as a senior field employment relation consultant. She's a certified human resources leader, and she has demonstrated very strong leadership quality and overall excellence in her field. So we're very fortunate that she's here to provide us very useful information. With that, I'll turn it over to Priscilla. Priscilla, thanks for making time, and over to you.
Hi, thank you for that. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen here. Perfect. Okay, so today what I'm going to be going over is a COVID-19 update, crisis management in your workplace. The agenda will consist of COVID-19 considerations that you should take into consideration, your questions answered, and further guidance and support. The employee considerations are the duty of care, the health and safety of the employees, the well-being of them, ensuring your business is protected, taking professional advice before drastic action, review of all your current policies, employees working from home, the reduction of workforce to protect cash flow, and actions you take within the constraints of law. I'm going to focus on the duty of care and the health and safety of the employees and the well-being of the employees. As an employer, you do have the duty of care towards your employees to include not exposing them to unnecessary risk. This is allowing the employees not to be in a position where they can become infected if you don't take reasonable precautions. Of course, for the majority of the workforce, you may be working from home already as is, unless you're an essential service. For the well-being as well, employees right now are very worried about the virus, and in most cases, their concerns are very valid. In addition to having the duty to care to protect health and safety, you also need to consider their well-being. Remind employees of any well-being initiatives that you currently have. If you have a health and benefit program, make sure that they know where they can reach out to or who they can talk to. Recently as well, both provincial and federal governments have released more funding to assist all employees with their mental health and different phone numbers and online sessions that they can access to assist them with this, to ensure that during this time, your employees are still being productive and they're still taking care of their well-being as well. What action should I take if an employee has to self-isolate? Ensure that employees are using the correct website. As it was mentioned, there is lots of information that's being released to employees every single day. Canada.ca/coronavirus is the most up-to-date information from all the governments. On here, employees will be able to see the updated information, the numbers, the statistics, what to do, what is closed, what isn't closed. You can also provide your employees with a coronavirus policy so that they understand the seriousness of it and the policies and the procedures that you will follow in your workplace. If someone has to self-isolate, do you have to pay them? There's no statutory requirement to pay an employee who self-isolates. However, you can have the employees take paid sick days or paid leave if this is such policy that you have in place. An employee can also opt to use their vacation days, but it does not have to be paid. As of March 25th, Bill C-13 was passed by the federal government. This was the COVID-19 Emergency Response Act. This act amends the Canadian Labor Code and it protects a job protected leave for an absence for up to 16 weeks for employees who are unable or unavailable to go to work for reasons related to COVID-19. Some of these reasons include they are sick themselves, a family member is sick and they had to take care of the family member, their children's school and daycare is closed and they have no one to take care of their child. So this is something that you can also provide to your employees. It is an unpaid leave, but it is a job protected leave for them. Temporary layoffs. Unfortunately, a lot of businesses have had to do layoffs. And the top 3 questions that we receive are, can I temporarily close the business due to a lack of work? Can we temporarily lay someone off without a layoff policy? How do I handle temporary layoffs if our business situation deteriorates? Firstly, a business can temporarily lay off employees due to a shortage of work. As I mentioned, all non-essential businesses in Ontario were required to close effective March 24th for 14 days. The Premier has announced that it will be extended for another 2 weeks. Closing because of the shortage of work, you would just have to follow the guidelines that are outlined by the provincial government in regards to that. For temporary layoff with someone, if you don't have a policy or it's not in their contract, you are able to lay off an employee, but if it's not in contract or policy, there is a risk of constructive dismissal from the employee. You can seek the employee's consent to lay off if you do not have this within their contract or there is no policy for you. As well, this is something that Peninsula has assisted greatly with a lot of our clients to guide them through this process and how to properly proceed. And then how do I handle temporary layoffs if our business situation deteriorates? It's possible to introduce a temporary layoff policy or contracts that could bring up a temporary layoff clause for right now. Provide letters advising them if you do need to do a temporary layoff. You should track all absences of your employees, help manage staffing levels and workloads. Consider the order of layoffs as well for all your employees. In some situations, a notice requirement might be needed before you lay off an employee. And remember that a temporary layoff automatically becomes a termination once it lasts longer than a certain number of days and weeks. In Ontario, that is roughly 13 weeks. Depending on the province as well, you may extend the temporary layoff by continuing to pay your employees. How can you support your employees during this worrying time? Put support in place for worry, stress, anxiety, financial concerns, medical concerns, harassment, people on temporary layoff. Speak to one of our members to get help for you. Like I mentioned, it's a great time to try to promote any programs or health and benefits that you have to assist employees to help them deal with stress and anxiety. Once again, also the provincial and federal government have released a lot of information, a lot more funding to help everyone during this time, as it is such an uncertain time for everyone. Then there are, what rights do you have as employers? Employers need to establish their standards, their expectations, their policies and procedures to ensure that everything that is expected is outlined for the employees and the business. These are different types of policies that should be outlined to assist in establishing the standards for all your employees. Policies such as stress handling, equal opportunity, harassment, working alone, data protection, especially now that everyone is working from home, social media, work-related, etc. Are there any questions right now from anyone? Not at this time. Okay. So that's what I mostly wanted to bring in. I will bring up Shelley now to assist with referring any further questions that there might be and talking a little bit more about what Peninsula can do to assist.
Hi, thanks, Priscilla. Rakesh, I think you may be on mute.
Sorry, you're right. Shelley, sorry, before you proceed, we don't have any questions in the chat box as yet, but if I can ask a question to Priscilla. The temporary layoff, you mentioned the 13 weeks period that is there. Has that been extended? Because I heard that that was likely going to change.
No, it hasn't as of right now. It's still 13 weeks. I know this is something that they are looking into just based on the information that everyone is receiving about COVID-19, that it will most likely be longer than 13 weeks. But as of right now, there has been no legislation to change that time frame.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. So, it's a pleasure to bring in Shelley. Seguin, she's the business development manager, and Shelley's been a local Windsor-Essex local person for several years now. She's been here for the past 19 years, and she works extensively with small and medium-sized businesses in the region, and she provides them expert advice so that business can focus on their core business. She's been helping out quite a few businesses here, and she's going to talk in a little bit more detail about what Peninsula does and how it can help. And then we'll be talking a bit about the partnership that we're going to have with Peninsula to help you. So over to you, Shelley.
Hi, thank you, Rakesh. First, I just wanted to thank everyone for attending. I do see we have a few questions in regards to temporary layoffs, as well as if you don't have a layoff clause. And I also see a question about sales revenue and support. So we will get to those. I'm going to let Priscilla actually answer those, but just to quickly address Rakesh's quick mention there, we do represent Peninsula. We are an international company. We've been helping businesses certainly before COVID-19 with a massive increase, obviously, in the last few weeks. So our clients have been able to come to us, ask any question in regards to their health and safety and inside the workplace. HR, as legislations change, we're constantly changing and analyzing the legislation and getting the right information back to our clients. So we are happy to help. This is just a tiny, tiny little bit of information. I know COVID-19, the details have changed so frequently, and it's really nice to have a partner to lean on that can get you the right answers. So real quick, let's jump back into the questions I see here. Priscilla, do you see the question from Sandra?
Yes,
I believe she is too.
So to please review the temporary layoff again for those without contracts or don't have a temporary layoff clause. So if you don't have a temporary layoff clause with your employees currently, or there's nothing in their contract, you are able to lay off employees, but you just run the risk of a constructive dismissal with your employees if there's no contract in place or no policy in place with those individuals. If there is no layoff policy, the first thing that you should try to do is see if you can consent to a layoff from the employee, or if they have vacation days that they're able to use, personal days, any days along those, to use them prior to a layoff, and to maybe see if they're willing to volunteer to do a layoff. Just once again, because if you lay them off, you just run the risk of the employee saying there was a constructive dismissal in place. Does that answer the question, Sandra? I think so. Yes, okay, perfect. And then we are a newly set up company for 5 months and do not have sales revenue. What kind of support policy could fit us? That is something that I would definitely say that we should take away and assist in going into a little bit more detail, because that is a little bit more specific. Shelley and I can take that away and then definitely provide that back to you afterwards.
I'd just like to touch upon that. We've heard a lot about young startup companies that are in a similar situation. So the Chamber is advocating on that with our network, and we've raised this with the federal government. We've been told that they're going to look into this and come back to us with some kind of a resolution on this. We don't know what it'll look like, whether it will be, something that employers will be able to go to bank and just like, their businesses 2 years and beyond in existence, access, there's about $40,000 that they are able to access, whether it'll be something like that similar for young startup companies. So we are looking at that. Stay tuned. We've been told that the government is looking at what they can do for the startup companies with no revenue or very little revenue, and that are younger than 2 years in existence.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rakesh. Are there any other questions at the moment? It looks like there's not. Okay. So if I could just expand briefly on my mention of the services that Peninsula is offering, I think it's usually best to start with an example, because obviously I can explain in great detail how we can help you with your policies and your procedures and your health and safety manuals, and provide guidance 24 hours a day with legal advice around your HR and your health and safety questions. But I think it really hits home when I talk about some of the people that I've been helping in Windsor through this. And I have an example of yesterday, a business that has been deemed essential. They are working in basically a construction environment. Their employees had reached out with concerns about their safety. It was a very calm and relaxed conversation. However, the employer needed to make sure that he was providing the duty of care that Priscilla mentioned, and we were able to work that through with the employer to give himself peace of mind that he had followed all the best practices, as well as giving his employees peace of mind. And in the matter of, essentially one day, we were able to ensure that their job site was going to go back to work, and everybody was quite happy. Consent was received, and at the end of the day, the employer just really was so thankful that he didn't jeopardize his relationship with his employees, but he also was able to continue the work that was so importantly needing to be done for his business to stay running, which is a lot of people's priorities right now. So, and at the end of that conversation, just knowing that he had done it properly and there could be no issues later, lets that business owner go home and feel good about their day. So that's an example of where our advice comes in handy. Beyond the advice piece, obviously we're going to want to have everything in writing and documented, and so that moving forward you are always compliant, right? Laws are constantly changing. Ministry of Labor is once in a while or frequently involved, and we are certainly there just to offer the protection to the employer, where the Ministry of Labor would offer the protection to the employees. So just know that in conversation with us, our 100% goal is to provide peace of mind back to the business owner, the employer. And, we've been doing this for over 30 years. We have excellent advice. We have wonderful professionals like Priscilla is a great example. And I'm happy to meet anytime and talk about your business needs, whether it's COVID-19 related or possibly later, just hopefully back to business related, right? Now, Rakesh, if I can easily send this back to you to chat.
Yeah, thanks, Shelley. Shelley, thanks for providing information on what kind of support and services you can offer. The Chamber is pleased to inform you that we are going to be getting into a formal partnership with Peninsula. So with that, the members of the Chamber of Commerce will be getting a benefit. So any Chamber member that wants to access Peninsula services, they can work with us and have themselves enrolled in the program, and through the partnership that we are having, there is a 5% discount that will be offered on all the services that are being offered by Peninsula. So it's a good time, to seek the right advice. As both Priscilla and Shelley have mentioned, that there's a lot of things that have changed. But as an employer, you need to be very cognizant of the rules, ensure compliance, make sure that you're dealing with employees in a fair way, ensuring that all the contractual obligations are followed, and also taking care of your business, ensuring that you're doing the right thing for your business, so that there is no liabilities associated with any of the actions you take, or the drastic actions that you may have to take. So for that reason, I think this is a partnership that we thought would be very beneficial for our members. Hence, we are going to be making a formal announcement, but we just want to let you know that if you're a chamber member and if you want to seek advice, take support from Peninsula, we will be offering a 5% discount through the partnership with Peninsula. So that's something that we will be releasing in terms of additional information. It'll be coming out soon from the chamber. We'll also put the information on Peninsula and the services they are offering on our website. Of course, you can go on their website as well, but there'll be a link on the Affinity Partnership on our website as well, so that you have more information and clarity in terms of how this thing will work. Just looking at that, well, yeah, I can see some questions now. Raise your hand. Did you have a question? Oh, no, this is asking if somebody else has a question. So I'm not seeing any new questions coming. Anything else that Priscilla, you or Shelley want to add? One thing I just want to to make everyone know is, because it's just happened a few minutes back, the province is curtailing the number of essential service providers or essential service providing companies. So they have decided to now reduce the number of construction activities and allow only the ones that are really essential to continue. So which could include, there's a construction, healthcare facility, or a hospital, or an infrastructure project. Only those kind of construction will be allowed. So if you are in business of construction, you may want to check, Ontario's website to see if you are still allowed to continue your projects. There are inspectors that, as you know, are going around and ensuring compliance. And so starting on Saturday midnight, these construction projects, which are considered non-essentials, will be asked to close down. Just FYI on that. Priscilla and Shelley, if there's anything else you want to add?
I'm good, thank you. I was just going to mention that there's always lots of changes, like I had mentioned, and Peninsula does keep up to date with all the changes and ensures that all our clients are always up to date, and we provide the most important information and relevant information.
Thank you, Priscilla. I think that's a very valid point. I just want to again reiterate what Rakesh mentioned. We're very excited to have formed the Affinity Partnership with the Chamber. We're looking forward to rolling that out. It's something that would start immediately. If you do have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out. I've been consulting with businesses every day. I'm getting very accustomed to the new video meeting, and I'm definitely happy to help. So please kindly reach out. Priscilla is also available for advice. She can definitely support any questions that you have, as well as I'm happy to consult with the same situations. And we look forward to continuing our partnership with the Chamber, and I'm looking forward to everyone getting back to normal sometime soon. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Shelley, and thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any questions, but again, if there is anything that you need to provide as input, or you have questions or concerns, please feel free to come visit our website and send us an email. Again, info@windsor-essex-chamber.org. This video and the other videos will be available, is available on our website. This one will be made available soon. We also have a page on COVID-19, so it has the latest information that's coming in from different levels of government. there is some very valuable information there that you as business owner can access and keep yourself informed. Again, I want to thank you for being here, and hopefully, this is something that you can take back as information that will be useful for you. But also going forward, it gives you access to a resource, Peninsula, which will be very useful for you as we navigate through this turbulent times and times when things are changing very fast. So hopefully this resource through Peninsula will be very useful and helpful to you. So make good use of that. And if there's anything the Chamber can do to help you further, again, feel free to connect with us. So with that, we will end today's session. Feel free to, again, get back to us if there's any topic of interest that you'd like us to cover in the near future. And stay tuned for more information coming in terms of experts that we'll be bringing in next week. As I mentioned, we are going to bring you topics that is of relevance to you and importance to you. So we'll provide you some more information in the coming days. Stay safe. Have a very pleasant day and weekend. Do the best you can. Spend time with family. Hopefully you'll find some time for yourself and disconnect from everything that's going on, and stay healthy. All the best to everyone.